Hey everybody, I am back with the final season review of Batman Beyond, which technically doesn't have like a definitive ending, but I think, at least how I put it, Batman Beyond has at least two legitimate definitive endings. One which was epilogue in the technically the last episode of Justice League Unlimited, which in some point in the future I will go through a review of each of those seasons. Uh, but also the movie Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, which you can see like it's like a decent ending as well for the Batman Beyond kind of series. But before we continue, please like and subscribe, share this with your friends. Let me know what you guys think of Batman Beyond the series. And what was your favorite episodes? And what was your least favorite episodes? So anyway, hold on, let me check something here. Oh, God, hopefully there's no worry about no dropping frames. Anyway, uh, so we're back, and I we spend a little time because it's crazy how like the World Flex Gang has so much screen time in this series. They had at least one episode dedicated to them in each season, and they honestly had like a decent arc in terms of all the villains. They had probably the most complete arc where they started out as just a thieving family, but one daughter who started turning over a new leaf up until now in the last episode where you can see that if you dive into the World Flex gang, it seems that this is like a legacy in a sense. We don't talk much about like villain legacy, and the Royal Flex Gang, you could argue, had like despite they don't have much screen time in terms of the DC EU, they honestly established they have a legacy where uh where the queen talks about how much her father is so much better than uh shoot, come on, don't crap up on me now. So hope everybody's doing well. Hope everything's doing well. Talk about how praising her father so much, who was the previous king in the Royal Flex Gang, and don't know who King was previously before he became king for the Royal Flex Gang. Maybe he was like a previous Jack or something. I'm not sure. It's never really delved into. But he pretty much took over when he married Queen, and she just crapping on this, dude, and he kind of makes you feel sorry. And it has uh, uh, a good parallel between Terry and him, where he is like, do you know what it feels like to live in someone's shadow? And I love Terry's response, like, I can relate. but but we see Ten, working a normal job, and bailing, using a lot of her money because she's working at like a cooking establishment. Not like a high end restaurant, but pretty average. And so she saved up the money to, well, not saved up the money. I'm pretty sure she had some decent cash stored away, and she used it to bail out Jack, who got busted. But you see, these two at least are turning over like a new leaf, and it's like, man, Terry has significant love interest throughout this series. We'll get into the call, which introduces the future Justice League, and you see some kind of potential romance between him and Aquagirl. But Terry and uh, 10 had like a thing, and then you see Dana, who was like the real girlfriend. Not the time to be crapping out on me. Come on. Uh, anyway, I'm gonna try to make this fast because I'm not sure what's going on with my internet connection right now. But uh, it's just very Batman because Bruce had at least a handful of love interests, and Terry. It's fair to have him have some kind of connection, even though it's more hinted at with Ten and obviously with Dana, but you can see something going on in terms of like, you know, Aqua Girl if they spend a little bit more time together. But that was a pretty good episode, and you get to see like Paxton powers, even though he doesn't have like a primary kind of overarching display in the series outside of him making an appearance in the fall of his father. He finally got jammed up when after Batman stopped the Royal Flush Gang and that whole rigmarole of them trying to kidnap Paxton in order to leverage some money from Wayne Powers. But he's getting locked up as Jack is being released. So we finally got an end to the Powers family. At least, I'm not sure about the comics, but that's the end of that. But we also get a return of Ink, and she's one of my all-time favorite like Batman Beyond villains. She comes back to, after doing a job for this, company man, the CEO dude, sabotaging his own rocket in order to claim some insurance. But he, instead of just paying this woman, he just like pull a villain move and decides to atomize her with a laser. But she makes her escape and figures like, oh, she goes to the only person she feels like she can get some help from was her daughter, who has some issues herself, because we get a little bit, of the history of Ink here, where not sure how she gained her powers, but it's through some kind of mutagen. But she also had like a young baby, so she knows she couldn't bring a young baby along with her little exploits. So she put the baby for adoption, and send money once a month, giving her espionage exploits. He managed to, through different cell divisions, transfer through multiple places to get to her, so it can be traced back to Ink. But she's weak. She can't find anybody to trust. Well, if you didn't backstab that poor lonely man who just looked up to you in a way, you could have had like another outlet for some help. But she get her comeuppance when the daughter ends up betraying her by messing around with the mutagen, where she stole, don't know how this girl with no experience in breaking into stuff found a way to break in, steal the mutagen, semi-heal the mom. But as Batman's about to die from Ink, she starts to dissipate, and it's like, I guess she's just bitter. The fact that the mom just, she figures like, oh, just because you send money doesn't mean like that makes it okay. The fact that apparently like she's got abandonment issues, which also is probably like a huge red flag. The fact that she probably spent so much of it because she got credit card debt. But now that thanks to her mom giving her information with like different checking accounts and everything like that, she pretty much cleaned out her mom before she ended up seemingly killing her. But since Batman can't really bring up her on charges with no evidence to lock her up or anything like that, she living a high life right now, and he shows up like, they never found any residue left of ink, and to like, so what? Yeah, she's dead, and Batman's like, yeah, she's been dead before, and now, well, I say like, it appears that because she's freaking out. It kind of reminds me of the episode when we first introduced to Riddler, where Mockridge is like literally hiding in his own house and literally afraid that Riddler might, come get him. Now it's kind of like this with the daughter. Now she's literally afraid of every little shadow, not knowing if that's ink spying on her, which in the back she is. Or it could have been like the show just, giving that illusion to add to the fear. It kind of leaves you questioning, is that really ink, or is just the show just messing with us like she's like spying from afar? But she did show back up in The Call, which is like a 2-part episode. It's one of the favorite, best ones. I can't even imagine the hype around this, where Superman shows up in Gotham, takes down Ink, thinking he's just a normal dude, and of course Terry is just like gobsmacked. He's just fanboying out. It's like, oh my God, you're Superman. You're the hero. And I can imagine like young Terry looked up to Superman like everybody else. And I love this dynamic between Bruce and Clark, and it's like, you outlive us all, Bruce. It's like, you outlive us all, Bruce. You too stubborn to die. You too stubborn. The friendship between Batman and Superman is just for the ages, man. I love these guys' dynamic, and it just gotten better with the age. They just got this rapport with each other. It's like, I can use that Kryptonian DNA. It's like, you outlive us all, Bruce. It's like, good old Bruce. And I was like, this is a Boy Scout. I was like, good old Bruce, man. But Superman comes to Gotham because he sees that, okay, I've been monitoring your kid's exploits, and I figure it's time to bring him in to the Justice League. Which comes to to Terry's shock, like, Justice League. Can you imagine that kind of like, oh my God, like, I'm made to the big time, like, oh my God. And it's like, but not only that he's asking for Terry to join the league, but it's also he feels, that there's a spy among the league, because one of his team members, which is kind of like the futuristic Atom, I guess, this black guy who can shrink and grow his body, and while trying to stop a runaway train, it locks, trapping him, and he ends up getting seriously injured. Now he's in some kind of like bathtub tank, pretty much, in the Justice League home base, which is in Metropolis. So it's kind of fun to see like a futuristic Metropolis, because he spent so much time in Gotham. Now we see like Big Barda, which I'm pretty sure she kind of outlived her husband, because this is a future here. You got Big Barda, Hawkman, who is like from the Justice League animated series, appears to be the son of John Stewart and Shira Hawkgirl. Which is like, I don't know. Because he seems like you could play around with the skin tone if you want to, but it just, as a kid when I saw this, it's like, you don't look black at all. You look like maybe you can argue he's light skinned. But it's just, as a kid, I was like, oh, he seemed like a white guy, until the Justice League episode when it's hinted like, oh yeah, this is his son. but he pretty much adopted. Since I'm not sure why he never got in a Green Lantern ring, given the fact that they are teamed up with a futuristic Green Lantern, this bald Asian kid who's probably from like Tibet or something. Is very Zen-like, so I guess he has great will. And we got Aqua Girl, who's the daughter of Aquaman, and Mira. Even though in most comics they have a son, or most iterations they have a son. But they ain't dive too much into the family lineage. They just like, oh, they just have a daughter. Anyway, Superman needs Batman since he's the only person he feels like he can trust because he wasn't a part of the league yet. It's like, I need you to sift through who can be the traitor amongst us, because there was like a sabotage not only on the train but also with Aqua Girl's swim tank where she was training. And of course, none of the leaguers trust Batman because it's like, which is very, the whole antagonistic Hawkman and Barda seems needless. It's like, you don't know. Yeah, they just said like they don't know you. Okay, then you don't know me, so you don't know me enough to not like me. So is this kind of like an arbitrary way to cause unnecessary conflict? They can like not trust them, or at least tell them like, like, we don't know you just yet. Work with us, stick with us long enough. Maybe we'll grow to trust you. Things of that sort. But the needless confrontation and the fact that y'all been superheroes for a long enough time, whereas like, people have been doing good superhero work and Superman bringing them on to the league. Have y'all acted this way when it came to the Green Lantern or Aqua Girl or something like that? Were you this pig-headed towards everybody who just happened to be new? Because it seems unnecessary. That's my biggest complaint. It's just like unnecessary kind of infighting with superheroes, which in itself is a trope, which we slowly starting to get away from because everybody's kind of catching on how needless that is. But they come to realize that Superman is the traitor when they try to save like while they try to save like the city from like all these fires. Hawkman deals with this kind of missile that's firing off, and he seemingly dies. But thanks to the onboard computer recording of the Batmobile, Bruce managed to do some 3D scan of the range, at least like a significant radius around the Batmobile, and through some spectral analysis sees that there's like a laser coming from like a different end, and it sees it come is the heat vision from Superman, and all the leaguers come to talk with Superman, and it shows that Hawkman is actually alive because he sent out his suit because he heard some kind of like distress signal, but nobody else seems to hear it, so they kind of clued him in. So he ejected from his suit in time, and now it's like, okay, it's confirmed that Superman seems the only one that to be this supposed traitor, and it turns out he had like a Starro on his chest. Now if you don't know who Starro is an alien creature who's able to mind control anybody is attached to. And from since it's aquatic, Aqua Girl managed to get inside the creature's mind and see that it's coming from like a long time ago. It comes from a planet, which it kind of connects to one of the episodes in Superman the Animated Series, which is really fun, where Superman gets captured because he's the last son. This seemingly like the Collector type from like the DC's versions of Marvel's Collector, where he collects rare endangered species. He ends up kidnapping Superman, and Superman manages to break out, but since all the creatures that this collector acquired, he had a tough time trying to figure out where all their planets would have been, which you got the forces of solitude with advanced technology. You can do some kind of DNA analysis and pinpoint where in the galaxy each of their planets are from. It probably will make more sense that because he keeps all of them, which I don't. Which yeah, it's historically in Superman's Forces of Solitude. He has like a kind of like a mini zoo with all these rare animals, but they're rare animals. The fact that they're the last of their kind. Now it makes better sense, narratively speaking, that all these race of creatures, including Starro, is the last of his kind. But if because they said like, oh, he had trouble finding each of their home planets are, but you can do like a DNA analysis of each of these creatures, pinpoint where in the galaxy they're planet from, and then turn and bring them back. Now it'd be a different story if he did all that. If they actually said like, oh, he seems like he did all that stuff, but the ones he still have are the ones whose planet was annihilated for some reason, and they're the last of their kind. That will make narrative better sense to compare to Superman, whose planet is gone, and he and Kara technically is the last of their kind. So if their plans are still around, it makes better sense to bring them back. But he never did anyway. And they said this Starro has been attached to Superman for years. Now he still had this black and silver costume. And we see like how the Starro attached to him. So how many years was it been like? Because you make it seem like years, like it's been like decades or something like that. But it's left ambiguous since it's like maybe it's been 2 years. I'm not sure because he had like the black and silver costume. If he still had the blue and reds, then you can tell like, oh, it's been very, very long time. But no. And is he still married to Lois at this point in time? Have he ever, been undressed around her to see this Starro? They never dive too much into it. I'm overthinking it, but it just seems kind of like it could have been better if it's been like maybe a couple of weeks. So that way people won't be picking at it because I'm picking at it as far as like how long this Starro's been attached to him. So now this creature using Superman to cultivate more Starro. How he went about doing all that, who knows? But underneath the fortress in like this pool area that's frozen, it's been Starro's been cultivating more of his kind to plan a massive planetary takeover. Once these Starros are released into the ocean, there's no way to stop them. But thanks to Batman acquiring the kryptonite, they managed to kryptonite from Bruce managed to stop Superman, only temporarily when a couple of Starros attached to Hawkman and Barda and the others. But we get to see like Batman escape the fortress, at least go far enough where like Superman's the only one that can fly fast enough to catch him. And you see like an awesome display of just a mind control Superman just not flying like typical flying he does. He just stands static and just zooms until he catches up to the Batmobile. And we see the hint of the classic Superman theme song from the 90s TV show, but more twisted up to be a little more sinister, which is a kind of a cool callback to the Superman the animated series. But Batman using like a giant grapple in the Batmobile to attach to Superman's chest and electrify Starro off of him. So they managed to work together to get the Starros off the League's faces and stop them from escaping into the waters. They gather them all up. They figure out where the planet from, and they just use Barter's boom tube to just put them back to where they came from. And Superman tells them, like, hey, you're still welcome to the League if you want. Bruce was never much of a team player, and here Terry is like, I guess we got that much. I guess we got that in common. Sounds like he's like Bruce, who was like a part-timer Justice Leaguer. Terry resigned himself to probably be in that same frame, because I think in Epilogue they bring up about like the future Justice League needing help from Terry. So like Bruce, he does the whole part-timer thing, but mainly wants to do solo work, which is fitting. But it's a great two-parter. We also get like a good episode where Talia al Ghul, shows up for Bruce's birthday, which Bruce is kind of bitter because he's constantly reminded that he's getting older and not as spry he used to be, and he kind of is like feeling nostalgic for the glory days that he can just go out and just be Batman and saving people. And he tries to help a lady from getting hit by a car, but he isn't spry enough to get out of the way. But luckily Terry shows up and saves both of them. Now it kind of like really reinforced his mood that he's been in. And you also get that awesome little play of like a superstitious cowardly lad, and just like it kind of reminds me. Well, this is years before Avatar: The Last Airbender, but they had like a similar episode where it's kind of sort of like a musical in that series, but this episode it's just basically them watching plays, and Bruce, like most of Team Avatar, looking at their exploits being displayed in like a very superficial way. And it seems like these guys just pretty much turned our exploits and tragedies and heroism into some kind of cartoonish play. And it's just, you can say like Bruce is being a little like bitter, but he also like, he's treated like a joke. And it's just, it makes him feel some type of way. Battling like, Scarecrow, Joker, and, Mr. Freeze and all this other people. It's just like, this is, this is not a joke to him. Like, I lived this. These guys were serious threats that were hurting a lot of people. And y'all, of course, he's too close to it because all these people watching his plays were either too young or wasn't born yet to understand the ramifications of what happened, because this is history to them, but was real to him. It's kind of like the way we probably put on plays about Caesar and his exploits during his reign, but anybody who managed to somehow have immortality, who lived that life and see somehow they showed off that play, they probably feel like, God, that's not how it was like that at all. And Caesar was kind of like a complete dick, and y'all treating him like he's just holier than thou, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure they will have that kind of mindset because they be too close to it and they lived it. But then Talia shows up to wish, her beloved a happy birthday and offers him a chance to gain eternal youth through the Lazarus Pit because she's still young. Bruce and Terry goes to her little island, and he gets a dip into the Lazarus Pits, and he is like a person probably in his like late 40s, early 50s now. He's, still, and he's, faster, and he's at his kind of peak. And it's kind of cool to see like Terry's astonished, like, wow, this is where you like back then. And he's just like agile, just like classic Bruce Wayne Batman at his peak. And now you're looking at this, and it's like he immediately regrets it. It's like this is wrong. We got to get out of here. But then they realize they pretty much trapped here. And then he hears Talia talking with Ra's al Ghul, or Race. And I'm glad they bring up how people keep confusing Race and Ra's. And I grew up with Race. People who grew up watching the Nolan films call it Ra's. But it's kind of like Vase and Vaz. It's like, both are correct. But I prefer to call it Ra's al Ghul. This sounds better to me. I don't know. So Bruce hears Race. He bursts into her quarters, and it's like, where is he? Talia, where's Race? And then he comes to realize that Race took over the body of his own daughter because the Lazarus Pits can't continue rejuvenating him like it used to. And it's like, if you don't know, the Lazarus Pits pretty much keeps you young for at least a good 100 years. It's not a permanent solution. And every time you take a dip, it makes you slightly more crazy. Talia and Race used it, a fair bit. Jason Todd used it once, but against his will in order to, Ross trying to bring him back to life after the whole death in the family situation. Which, by the way, Under the Red Hood is the next Batman movie I will be reviewing next week, so look forward to that. And of course, Bruce had probably used it at least once, like here. I guess you could count it this. Not sure how many other people had used the Lazarus Pits outside of any, League of Assassins members. But it turns out that his overall plan was to transfer his mind to Bruce's young body in order to continue on with his goals of world domination and balancing the world kind of thing. But thanks to Terry, who and him and Bruce, it's fun to see these two team up, and you get to hear the classic, Batman animated series theme, and just to see these two back to back fighting off goons is really fun. But Terry saves Bruce, but Ra's goes back to save his machine because he needs it in order to hopefully one day get to a younger body, and one with like a he tried to go to Bruce because he could only go with Talia years ago because she had like a close DNA match. And I love the dynamic. Well, he's trying to transfer. Now he's a perfected machine. Now he can just go to any young body he wants to, but he wants Bruce because he always saw him as like a proper successful heir. But anyway, I love the dialogue between Race and Race and Bruce, because Bruce points out you don't fear death, you whimper at it. And it's like, Roz slaps him like, silence! Like, psh, and you hit like a girl. It's just funny. This is the funniest dialogue in this entire series that always stuck with me after all these years. That was so funny. Because it's just the fact that he's embodied. It's just, I'm not going to explain it. It's not fun. A joke's not funny if you have to explain it. Quoting Joker. It's like, you have to explain. If you have to explain a joke, there is no joke. But they managed to make an escape, and Ra's seemingly dies. But every time this guy seemingly dies, I never buy it. I didn't buy it in the Nolan trilogy because knowing that character, it's like, this dude is not dead. I do not buy it. He'll show up again at some point. But that's pretty much the end of the two-parter. And of course, since he wasn't going through constant dips in the Lazarus Pits, eventually the effects of the Lazarus Pits will wear off and he'll be back to his standard age state. Which is kind of sad. I was kind of hoping this would like rejuvenate him into this point, and then he will, you know, stick around long enough, a little further down the line before he, by the time like maybe like Terry gets to his 40s, that's when like Bruce starts coming around looking like what he does in the series. Just to keep Bruce around longer. Of course, in the comics, currently in the Batman Beyond comics, Bruce would have seemingly passed away. I'm not 100% sure. Uh, but that was an awesome episode. All the other episodes are pretty much like not my favorites. And it's the one with the two-parter with Curse of Cobra, and Cobra is some kind of organization which is kind of like a janky version of the Serpent Society from Marvel mixed with Hydra. But they're kind of lame terrorist organization, and the leader is like had like a fixation on what's her name, Terry's friend, Max. But Terry ends up saving her and escaping and preventing the Cobra's plans of turning most people into reptiles and ruining the environment with like a volcano eruption that will take people back to the Cretaceous period pretty much. But like this one's pretty quick. All the other episodes, like I did not really care for. The whole Zeta robot, I never cared for any of the episodes he was in. Unmasked, the last episode here, just Terry recounts to Max about his earlier adventures being Batman and saving this boy who saw his face, and Cobra trying to kidnap him to figure out who Terry is. But then, of course, the kid still remembers, but keeping Terry's secret. And then this episode with Untouchable with this Repeller, this villain called Repeller with this Repeller suit. That episode was actually pretty decent, but all the other episodes dealing with Terry's past, like this Charlie Big Time Bigelow who's went to prison and stuck up for Terry, so Terry didn't go to juvie too long, but he kind of took the rap for his seemingly friend. But it's like one of those classic tales of like kid with a troubled friend who's still in like criminal stuff, but Terry's like more adult now, and it's like no. And like after his being around Bruce for so long and understanding the world a little bit better outside of himself, he grew up and Big Time pretty much like still want to get involved in his criminal activities. But Bruce, who still consider him a friend, tries to give him like a look, he went to bat for his friend by going to Bruce. Is like, look, can you get my friend a job? He needs a second chance. You gave me a second chance. This guy deserved it too. It's one of like he stuck up for me. I want to pay him back. And like this dude went to bat for him, and that's a true friend. The fact that you went out your way to get your friend like a job, even though it's like working security, it's honorable work. So it's like, and he turns himself into a freaking monster because he's working with these like criminals. One of them which has some kind of like claw tools and makes him act like he's freaking Wolverine for some reason. But yeah. Big Time doesn't have a happy ending, honestly. But yeah, this was a pretty decent season. But the best ones were like the Call two-parter, inkling out of the past. Those are like, in my opinion, the best ones, and the average ones was like Untouchable and King's Ransom. Uh, Honestly, those are the only ones, honestly. But that was pretty much all the seasons of Batman Beyond. At some point, don't know when, don't quote me on it, but at some point I want to do like a ranking, because it's been a while since I did like a YouTube ranking. I want to do like a ranking of all, like, Batman Beyond's villains, and see how I would rank them. But at some point, I don't know when. But at any rate, let me know in the comments below what you think of Batman Beyond. Which ones was your overall favorite? Which ones were your least favorite episodes? And man, I missed watching this on Kids WB back in the day. Saturday morning, this was like right up there with like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Teen Titans. Is like, those were like the it shows. Man in Black animated series, those were the it shows. Everybody watched them. Pretty much every kid, watched them growing up in the early 2000s. Those were lit shows. And God, it's like, oh God, just eating breakfast and just want to watch TV and just, watch these shows. Just don't want to be bothered. And like, just like good, wholesome, great kid shows. Top tier. It's like, they're top tier shows. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit as I go over Batman Beyond Return of the Joker movie. And stay tuned for that. And I'll see you all soon. Peace.